Hi everybody, it is April and I'm in the Sewing Annex, and today I'm going to be free motion quilting on my Grace Qzone Hoop Frame. So what you are seeing is my quilt in the Grace Qzone Hoop Frame, and I have already done a basting stitch on the edge, and this quilt I put in lengthwise. So over here is the bottom and the top is off camera. Let me see if I can swing around. So this quilt is longer than my frame, which is typical. So I will be doing quadrants of the quilt with my domestic sewing machine. And I have my sewing machine all set up. I've cleaned it. I've spun a couple bobbins. And I've actually even done the first stitching. Initially, my intent was I was going to do the wood grain all the way along, all the way the length of the quilt. But then I realized that I would have to do one stitch, move the quilt, finish the stitch, and then come down, start the next stitch, move the quilt back, and it was just going to be very tedious. So I happened to be on house party with Dee, and I said I'm just gonna have to think about it because I don't think that I really want to move the quilt that much. So I had the brilliant idea that I will do a wood grain pattern in each block. These blocks are pretty big, so it shouldn't be too hard to do the wood grain in each block. So that is the plan. I've done the wood grain in one block as a practice run. So now I am going to do the wood grain in this block here. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. I think you can get a good idea of what I'm doing. So I've put my needle down. I've got my stitch regulator on. I've gotten my bobbin thread up to the top. I'm going to turn this on, take a few stitches, and then make sure my quilt is dragging the floor. So I'm going to make sure the quilt is out of my way. And I am going to start stitching. So here we go. And initially I'm going to have a really wavy line, and I'm going to try and keep my pace steady because I don't want that red light to come on. And the first line is just wavy. There aren't any knots or anything, and I want to get to my seam, and then I'm going to turn off my stitch regulator. And now I am going to snip my threads at the end. And what I'll do is I'll just travel in the ditch down just a little ways, and then I'll start my next wavy line, and somewhere in there I should have a knot. And hopefully I'm not in your way. So I'm going to slowly try to steady my hands and go down, and now here we go. And I don't want this to be a really tight weave, and my thread broke. Bummer. So I'm pulling my thread towards the back, and I'm going to go ahead and try and finish this stitch. Hopefully my machine will cooperate. I'm going to move kind of slowly. I'm using thread from Hobby Lobby, and I'm hoping that I haven't forgotten that my machine doesn't like it. Okay, so now I'm going to make a knot. So I'm going to stitch, and then I'm going to come around And I'm going to make the other side of my knot. And then I'm going to go around, and I'm going to try and make sure I have space because I want to come back out of this knot. And then I'm going to come back around, and I kind of have a little point there, so I'll do my little point, and I'm bringing it back around. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and go to the other end since I have that opportunity. Now I do need to pull my thread out of the way. I don't want it to get caught, but I also don't want to injure myself. And then I'm going to come over to the edge. I went a little bit over, but you know, by the time this is all said and done, I think I'm going to end up stitching in the ditch around all of these squares, simply because I have some travel areas and some not so travel areas. So there you go. So this is the first block that I stitched, and you can see, let me see if I can zoom out how we come in close, how I've traveled in maybe not quite so the ditch. So this is right here the reason I think I'm going to end up going all the way around the block. But that is my wood grain, and I think it turned out pretty nicely. This you can't see as well, which is fine, but there's my wood grain there. I should probably do an example in a different color where you can actually see the wood grain. I hope that video tutorial was helpful. I just want to say, don't be afraid to do free motion quilting. I am by no means an expert, nor am I perfect at it, but the only way that I'm going to improve is just to keep on trying. So that is the wood grain stitch, and I think I'm going to kind of like it. I will share my quilt when I get done quilting it. I still haven't decided what I'm going to do in the large area where the horses are. I may do wood grain around the horses and then leave the horses kind of in place. Not real sure. If you have any suggestions as to how I can quilt the panel part of this quilt, I would be glad to hear them. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you would like to see more. Click the notification bell so that you will be notified when I upload a video. Be kind to everyone. Until next time, goodbye. Video's over. I saw another YouTuber do this. I thought it was kind of cute. Really, the video's over. Go watch one of my other videos. I think they're here and here. You should go watch them.